Python problem is one of the most challenging invasive species issues in the world, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. You can see how far the snakes have spread since they established a breeding population in the Everglades at the start of this century. It keeps going north and north. The USGS says eradication is currently impossible, but you can help control the population.
On a Tuesday morning over the Everglades, a helicopter hovered low above the trees while a wildlife technician leaned out holding a canvas sack. One by one, he released dead mice into the canopy below.
It's a bird, it's a plane, no, it's dead mice baits filled with acetaminophen being dropped from helicopters.
Hundreds of them, each attached to a small cardboard streamer, so they'd get caught in branches rather than fall straight to the ground.
This is one of the bait cartridges. There are 900 of these in each magazine on the helicopter with 4 magazines, so we'll dispense 3,600 of these before reloading.
It wasn't random, and it wasn't experimental chaos. It was a controlled operation following a protocol designed by researchers and approved by agencies. Inside each mouse was something familiar, something most people already have in their homes. Scientists are considering scaling this into the millions across South Florida.
Python removal is nothing new here in the Sunshine State, from the work of Florida Fish and Wildlife to the annual Python Challenge. But now the state has teamed up with another partner, helping achieve record-setting removal numbers in the Everglades.
Not for birds, not for alligators, but for one specific target that has quietly taken over one of the most important ecosystems in North America. And the reason this might work has nothing to do with brute force, the problem that won't slow down. Since 2017, more than 10,000 Burmese pythons have been removed from Florida through organized efforts, hunting programs, and government contracts. It sounds like progress until you look closer. Each python removed takes around 12 combined man-hours to catch.
Takes an average of 12 hours. That's collectively all the agencies to catch one python. So that's a lot of time and a lot of manpower to get not a lot of snakes.
Meanwhile, a single female can lay up to 100 eggs at a time. That imbalance is the real problem. The Everglades is the perfect environment. Dense vegetation, warm temperatures, endless water, and almost no natural resistance. Once introduced through the exotic pet trade, pythons didn't just survive. They expanded faster than any control system could handle.
Scientists working in Florida's Everglades are hoping an array of technology can help them eradicate a new predator lurking in the swamp.
It's sort of scary.
They're not talking about gators or even some kind of man-made pollution, but beasts like this one.
The damage is measurable. Raccoon populations in some areas have dropped by nearly 90%. Rabbits, opossums, and wading birds have followed similar patterns. The python doesn't specialize. It applies one rule to every encounter. If it fits, it eats. The question shifted from hunting them to whether you can outpace their reproduction at all. The lesson that changed everything. The idea behind the mouse drops didn't start in Florida. It came from a disaster that unfolded on the island of Guam. In the 1950s, a brown tree snake arrived through military cargo. Guam's birds had never evolved with ground predators. They had no instinct to escape. Within decades, forests went silent. Bird populations collapsed. Entire species stopped breeding. That's when researchers discovered something unexpected. Acetaminophen, the compound in common painkillers, was lethal to these snakes. Their bodies couldn't process it. A small dose shut down their system completely. Delivering it wasn't simple. You couldn't scatter pills across a forest, but you could place the compound inside something the snake would naturally eat, like a mouse. When it actually worked. Initial field trials dropped around 2,000 baited mice into targeted areas. The result was an 80% reduction in snake populations in those zones. And it happened quickly, often within a single monitoring cycle, without repeated human tracking. The effectiveness outperformed traditional trapping and hunting by a margin that changed how researchers thought about invasive control. It removed the dependency on locating the animal first, always the main limitation. Then came the realization that shifted focus to Florida. Burmese pythons are vulnerable to the same compound. The biology lines up, which means the same method could theoretically work in the Everglades. Why the young snakes matter most. Most people misunderstand the strategy. It isn't designed for adult snakes. A fully grown python can take down deer, so a small rodent isn't even part of its diet. Juvenile pythons behave completely differently. In their first 1 to 2 years, mice are exactly the right prey. They spend this time in trees and low vegetation, actively hunting. Mortality also naturally runs high at this stage, meaning small interventions can have outsized effects on long-term population trends. The bait is suspended in the canopy, exactly where juvenile snakes are most active. It doesn't force an interaction. It waits for one already likely to happen. The goal isn't immediate removal. It's long-term collapse. If enough juveniles are removed consistently, they never reach reproductive age. Over time, the population stops replacing itself. The risk nobody can control. The problem begins the moment scale is introduced. To cover the Everglades, you'd need millions of drops, repeated multiple times each year. And once that happens, control disappears. The Everglades isn't an isolated system like Guam. It's one of the most biodiverse ecosystems in North America, with hundreds of species interacting across land, water, and air. The bait doesn't just reach pythons. Raccoons, already struggling from population decline, would encounter it. Opossums, birds, fish, anything feeding on small animals becomes part of the chain. Secondary poisoning spreads upward. A small animal consumes the bait, survives briefly, then gets eaten by a predator. The compound moves through the food web in ways nearly impossible to track, diffusing through overlapping feeding networks far beyond the original drop zones. The species that could disappear first. The most concerning risk isn't the obvious one. It's the Florida panther. With an estimated population of around 120 individuals, the species is already on the edge. Their habitat overlaps almost completely with python territory, meaning any large-scale bait drop would occur directly within their range. For felines, acetaminophen is extremely toxic. Their bodies cannot process it, even in small amounts. A single contaminated mouse could cause fatal damage, and symptoms wouldn't be visible immediately in the wild. Wild predators don't avoid easy meals. A dead mouse requires no effort. That opportunistic behavior makes this strategy dangerous for non-target species. The risk isn't theoretical. It would be built into the environment itself, the animals that actually help. Some native species are already helping control the problem. The eastern indigo snake actively hunts and kills juvenile pythons, a natural regulator built into the ecosystem. But its population has been declining due to habitat loss, reducing its effectiveness at scale. Like juvenile pythons, it also eats mice, which means the same bait designed to reduce invasive snakes could remove one of the only native defenses against them. That creates a feedback loop, eliminating juveniles, while also weakening the system that naturally limits them. The strategy starts working against itself, removing both the problem and part of the solution simultaneously. The pattern seen before. This isn't the first time large-scale biological control has been attempted. In Australia, similar programs reduced invasive predators with positive results in certain areas. But side effects followed immediately. Non-target species died. Predators were affected through secondary exposure. Some target populations began developing resistance, reducing long-term effectiveness. The pattern is consistent. Every large intervention works, but never in isolation. Effects spread beyond the target, often only becoming visible years later. And by the time they're fully understood, reversing them becomes just as difficult as the original problem. Where Florida stands now. Right now, Florida is still relying on a mix of strategies. Hunting continues, even though it isn't keeping pace. Detection dogs are being trained to locate hidden snakes. Radio tracking helps identify breeding clusters for targeted removal. Researchers are exploring pheromone traps, biological controls, and genetic approaches, but none are ready at the scale needed. The truth is, there isn't a clean solution. Every option carries consequences. Somewhere in the Everglades right now, a female python is coiled around a clutch of eggs, undisturbed, invisible, and perfectly adapted to the environment around her. Whether those eggs become the next generation depends on choices that haven't been made yet. And right now, nobody knows which choice leads to less damage.